If you've been listening to this show for a while, then you know that I have a thing for cold cases. We, of course, cover the real ones on the show, but I love novels about them as well, which is why I was so excited to get a copy of Charlie Donnelly's new book, Guess Again. Guess Again starts with a kind of mystery that inspires this podcast. 10 years ago, 17-year-old Callie Jones disappeared from her small Wisconsin lake town. There was no body, no leads, just a whole community stuck in the echo of what had happened. But then, on the 10th anniversary of her disappearance, the case cracked wide open, this time with a dying detective's confession and a former cop who thought he walked away from that life for good. I have read every single one of Charlie Donnelly's books. He's the best-selling author of 20 Years Later, and so I was so excited to dig into this one. The story dives into guilt, memory, and the danger of the truths that we bury. It's the kind of book that will make you gasp out loud. So if you love Riley Sager, Alex Finlay, or anything with a slow burn mystery that explodes by the final chapters, this needs to be your next read. So pick up Guess Again wherever you get your thrillers. And maybe keep the lights on. Ever noticed how many unnecessary chemicals are in your cleaning products? When I started looking into what I was actually using around my home, I realized that my laundry detergent might just be the worst offender. So many popular brands are packed with harsh chemicals that can irritate your skin, mess up your hormones, and cause allergic reactions. So instead of continuing to use those dye-filled pods, I switched to EarthBreeze. Their detergent actually comes in sheets that are free from harsh chemicals like optical brighteners, dyes, parabens, phosphates, and preservatives. It also doesn't come in those plastic jugs. It's just a lightweight, pre-measured sheet that dissolves in the wash and gets the job done. And yes, your clothes still come out clean, fresh, and soft. I feel so much better knowing that I'm not exposing myself and my family to those unnecessary toxins. So if you're looking for a powerful clean without the harsh chemicals, try EarthBreeze. It's easy to switch, and if you're not completely satisfied, they have an amazing money-back guarantee. And right now, you can try EarthBreeze for up to 40% off plus 4 free gifts at earthbreeze.com/ATTWG. That's earthbreeze.com/ATTWG for 40% off plus 4 free gifts. Let me tell you about the online cannabis company that's revolutionizing how we deal with life's challenges, from sleepless nights to stress-filled days. Mood.com has created an entire line of functional gummies that target specific health concerns with 100% federally legal THC blends, and they'll deliver them discreetly right to your doorstep. Even better, you can get 20% off your first order at Mood.com with promo code ATTWG. We've been advertising Mood for a while. They've been really good to us, and after trying some of their gummies, it is wild how different each one feels. Those Sleepy Time gummies will knock you out in about 15 minutes flat. No hangovers, no grogginess. What makes these different is how they've paired THC and other cannabinoids with herbs and adaptogens. You're not going to find gummies like this in a dispensary or anywhere for that matter. They've got immune support, menopause relief, PMS, mental clarity, sexual arousal, and all of them use federally legal cannabis, and it's all grown on small family-owned American farms, and they can ship to most states in the U.S. And best of all, not only does Mood stand behind everything with an industry-leading 100-day satisfaction guarantee, but as I mentioned, listeners get 20% off their first order with code ATTWG. So head to Mood.com and remember, use promo code ATTWG at checkout to save 20% on your first order. Hello, and welcome to Day by Day True Crime Stories, the podcast where we explore a different crime or justice milestone from this day in history. I'm your host, Kona Gallagher, and today is August 14th. On this day in 1986, 14-year-old Jeremy Bright attended a county fair in a small Oregon town. That day should have been filled with rides and games, but instead it became the beginning of a mystery that has haunted Myrtle Point for nearly 40 years. Today, we're discussing the unsolved disappearance of Jeremy Bright. Let's get started. Jeremy Dolan Bright was the kind of teenager you'd notice right away. He was tall for his age, lanky, and had bright green eyes and a warm smile. He lived with his mom in Grants Pass, Oregon, but often visited his stepfather in Myrtle Point. The Coos County Fair was the highlight of the season and was something that Jeremy looked forward to every year. The day before he vanished, August 13th, Jeremy attended the fair with his friend Johnny. Later that day, he called his mom from a payphone outside of McKay's Market. He sounded happy and said that he was going to take his little sister, Esty, to the fair the next day. They made plans for her to pick him and his little sister up on the 15th. Later that evening, he stopped by his stepdad's tavern. His grandmother owned the place, and his stepdad slipped him some pocket money for the fair. It was a normal summer day, and there was nothing to suggest that trouble was coming. On August 14th, Jeremy and his 10-year-old sister, Esty, spent the afternoon at the fair. Around 2 p.m., they split up, agreeing to meet again at the Ferris wheel at 5. Esty showed up, but Jeremy didn't. Some people would later claim that they saw him near the Ferris wheel being led or possibly forced away by an unidentified man. Those sightings, though, haven't been confirmed. The next day, when his mom arrived for the planned pickup, she walked into a quiet house with Jeremy's belongings untouched. He was gone. The items left behind told their own story. A 14-year-old on the run willingly wouldn't walk away without his wallet, his keys, or a change of clothes even. And Jeremy wasn't just any kid. He was responsible, close to his sister, and excited about starting high school and playing basketball in the fall. Witness accounts confirmed that he'd been in good spirits the day before and, again, on the day of the fair when he went with his sister. Everything about his behavior in the days leading up to his disappearance and even the day of suggested that he expected to see his family again, so none of them believed that he had run away. Jeremy was reported missing and the police began an investigation. And based on what Jeremy's family told them, they initially suspected foul play. But a week into the investigation, that belief began to change. In a small town, stories spread fast, and in the days after Jeremy's disappearance, Myrtle Point was buzzing with rumors. One claimed that Jeremy had gone to a party after leaving the fair willingly, had been given beer laced with drugs, and had overdosed. Another rumor came from a jailhouse informant who alleged that Jeremy had been shot during an argument at a swimming hole and buried nearby. Authorities searched ponds, wells, cabins, even land miles outside of town, but found nothing. But because there were so many different alleged sightings of Jeremy after he left the fair, police began to treat his case as though he were a runaway. So it seems as though they didn't necessarily believe the stories themselves that he had been shot, that he had overdosed. I mean, they definitely checked it out. But to them, what these stories had in common was that Jeremy willingly left the fair. And so as the days went on in the investigation, when police weren't able to find any trace of him, they began to believe that he was gone of his own volition. However, the investigation later zeroed in on a man named Terry Lee Steinhoff, a former family friend who had once babysat Jeremy. Some witnesses claim that they had seen Jeremy in Steinhoff's truck the day he disappeared. Steinhoff was later convicted of a brutal murder in 1988, but he always denied having anything to do with Jeremy's disappearance. He died in prison in 2007, never revealing any answers. Despite dozens of tips and these sightings that I mentioned, the case kept hitting dead ends. Every new lead dissolved into the same empty silence. So police didn't know what to think. There had been many sightings of Jeremy, and even rumors that he had run off to join the carnival. But these, along with the rumors of him being killed at a party or at a swimming hole, never really had any evidence to back them up. The one thing investigators were sure of was that Jeremy was still gone. In those first months, hundreds of volunteers scoured Coos County, searching forests, rivers, and abandoned buildings. Divers searched the deep water at local swimming holes. Deputies dug up remote clearings, but every effort ended in frustration. Through it all, Jeremy's family refused to give up. Year after year, his mom returned to Myrtle Point for anniversaries and searches. His sister Esty carried the trauma of being the last one to see him alive. In 2011, a memorial was held at the high school where Jeremy would have been a freshman. Friends and classmates gathered to remember the boy who loved basketball, bike rides, and afternoons at the arcade. Even now, the Coos County Sheriff's Office keeps his file open. They still get calls, and some tips sound credible. Others are just stories, but detectives believe that someone out there knows exactly what happened that day. Today, nearly 40 years later, three main theories still dominate this case. The first is that Jeremy was killed after leaving the fair, maybe at a party and maybe in an accident that someone covered up, or maybe in a violent abduction. That's a version that's supported by several witnesses, but has never been backed up by physical evidence. The second theory was that he was taken by Terry Lee Steinhoff, which again would have fit more in with the violent abduction theory. Steinhoff's violent history and the claims of people who said they saw him with Jeremy keep this theory alive, even though, again, there's nothing conclusive. The third theory, of course, is that Jeremy did run away. But again, he left all of his belongings behind and gave no signs that he was planning on leaving. However, like everything else, it simply can't be ruled out. In the decades since, Jeremy's disappearance has left a lasting mark on Myrtle Point. His mother has described the way that hope surges with every new tip and the way it drains away when the lead goes nowhere. His sister has said that the questions shape everything, even how she raises her own kids. In 2016, on the 30th anniversary of Jeremy's disappearance, investigators renewed their public appeal, saying that someone somewhere still holds the key to this mystery. Jeremy's face remains on missing persons lists, and his case serves as a reminder that people don't just vanish. Someone always knows. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Day by Day True Crime Stories. If you found Jeremy's story compelling, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. It'll help us grow. And be sure to join me again tomorrow as we explore another significant event in true crime history. Until then, stay safe and remember that behind every headline is a life worth remembering. Day by Day, True Crime Stories is a Little Monster production.
Hey, you can do it!